go into a ketogenic state, there aren't enough carbs in your body, okay? And so instead of using carbohydrates, your body starts to break down fat that is stored into ketones. That's why it's called ketogenic, ketones, okay? So ketones, rather than carbs, become the main source of energy for your heart, your kidneys, and your muscles, and your brain, which is why it's called ketogenic, okay? It's because you're using stored fat instead of carbohydrates or glucose. Does that make sense? So instead of glucose, instead of sugar, you're using fat for burning energy. Carbohydrates typically come from things like grains, we know that, rice, pasta. It also comes from legumes, so like beans, lentils, those plant-based proteins. And then, of course, my favorite, vegetables and fruits, right? Vegetables and fruits. So the keto diet relies on fat rather than all of those other types of sources of glucose. So sounds great. You're burning fat. It seems like an ideal way to lose pounds, right? But getting the liver is what makes those ketones. To make those ketone bodies is tricky, right? So to get to a state where you're burning your fat instead of your carbs, you basically have to go into a starvation state for your body to think, okay, I don't have any carbohydrates. I need to start burning fat. My liver needs to start turning this fat into ketones. So it requires that you basically deprive yourself of carbohydrates. That's from 20 to 50 grams per day. So keep in mind, a medium-sized banana has 27 grams of carbohydrates. That means you can eat one banana a day. That would be it, right? And then you have to like completely not eat any carbohydrates, no grains, no vegetables, no fruits, none of that, so that your body stays in that ketosis state, okay? And it typically takes a few days for you to get to this state. And I've heard all kinds of things. In those first few days, you might feel foggy, you might have some things. Even eating too much protein can interfere with getting into this ketosis state. So you can't eat a lot of protein either, okay? So what do you eat? High fat, moderate protein, not saying you can't have any protein, a little bit, but low carbs, so severely restricted, less than 50 grams per day. So this is what a 2,000 calorie a day diet would look like. You're getting 165 grams of fat. That is quite a bit, okay? 40 grams of carbs, about 75 grams of protein. And this is different for everyone because everyone has different body mass index, has a different metabolism. Again, I would not do this diet without the help of a medical professional. But like I said, it requires big shifts in how you normally eat, right? This is not what you would normally eat on a normal day because we eat vegetables, we eat fruits, hopefully. You know, we eat legumes, plant-based protein. But it's basically a partial fast, if you think about it. You're kind of partially fasting to be able to get to a ketosis state. So you have really no glucose, no energy, so then you're breaking down those ketones for an alternative energy, right? So yeah, that's basically the gist of it. A lot of fat, very little carbs. You're putting your body into this kind of partial fast state so that you can burn off that fat. Your liver is turning that fat into ketones. This is what a sample menu might look like. So 2 eggs fried in butter, served with sauteed greens. Again, greens have very little carbohydrates in them. They have a lot of fiber, right, but they don't have a ton of sugar, right, glucose. So, because carbohydrates, remember, are glucose and fiber, right? So you're getting some fiber in there. Lunch, bunless, grass-fed burger, grass-fed because it's leaner. So they are trying to say it would be lean beef, but still, you're getting beef. Topped with cheese, mushrooms, and avocado atop a bed of greens. Avocado, love avocados. Healthy fats, great for you, great for your brain, has omegas, but however, it is still a fat, right? Dinner, pork chops with green beans sauteed in coconut oil. Coconut oil, again, another thing that I do like. It's good in moderation, great for a healthy diet, healthy fats in it, but again, it's solid at room temperature. So what do you think happens to it in your arteries? Very similar to butter. It's solid, right? So it's still solid. Remember, I love all of these healthy fats, coconut oils and nuts and seeds and, fatty fish. Those are good fats. In fact, they reduce the cholesterol in your bloodstream, the bad cholesterol, right? The unhealthy cholesterol. But you want them in moderation, okay? So that is the high-fat, low-carb keto diet. It's also been known as like Atkins. Paleo is a version of it. But we've had versions of these over the years, right? Eating lots of high-fat, very little carbohydrates. So what are the risks? Okay, I'm just going to give you this information. Some of the risks, obviously, high in saturated fat, okay? 90% of your calories coming from fat. The American Heart Association recommends for a dietary pattern with no more than 5 to 6% of your calories from saturated fat. So we have talked a little bit about nutrition, reading the food label, right? If you look at your food label, you will see that it says, saturated fat and how much saturated fat is in that product. If it is 5% or less, that's ideal, right? You don't want more than that in your diet. According to the American Heart Association and, nutritionists, registered dietitians will tell you the same. You don't want it, again, because it puts you at risk for chronic disease, like the number one, heart disease, right, which is the number one killer of women in the United States. So we want to be very careful about the fat content that we eat. So this one, the risk is that it's high in saturated fat. Also, high in cholesterol. If you have high cholesterol, highly recommend for you to go get your numbers checked once per year so that you can check, where is my cholesterol level? You may even think you're fine and you don't. I just realized that I had high cholesterol, just slightly, but I need to be careful about getting too much in my diet. Keto would not be a good diet for me, right? I have high cholesterol. So again, you want to try to do 5 to 6%, no more than that, from your saturated fat, okay, eating. So risk for heart disease. So if you were eating a 2,000 calorie a day diet, you would want no more than 120 of those calories to come from saturated fat. Okay, so just to kind of give you an idea, that's about 13 grams per day. So not a lot, very little. Short-term effects, people say they get like the keto flu. So you might have flu-like symptoms for those first few days if you're trying to adjust to this, having just like foggy head, headaches, sniffles, maybe even body aches, just like you were getting sick. Trouble sleeping, constipation because you are reducing what? Fiber, exactly. Vegetables, fruits, you're not eating a lot of those, so your body is going to feel constipated. Fuzzy thinking, mood swings. Again, remember, this is a medical diet meant for those with a brain, issue, having seizures. So epilepsy. So it does affect your brain in the way that it behaves and works. What's that? Keto? It started as a medical way to treat epilepsy in children. So something about those fats helped the brain not have as many seizures in children. I know there's a lot of research on it, but it's been being used for 100 years and more for epilepsy. As far as weight loss, like I said, it's just a recent kind of thing people are doing, and there's not enough long-term studies on it. Short-term, they've noticed that some people are losing weight, but they don't know what the long-term effects of that diet could be. Again, high in saturated fat, we know that saturated fat at the very least puts you at risk for heart disease and high cholesterol. So my idea is like maybe short-term it can help you lose weight like that, right? What we know about these trend diets is people get on them, they lose a lot of weight, they feel great, and then it's not sustainable for a long period of time because you can't stay on keto forever. Or, most people can't stay on keto forever. Maybe you can, but eventually you will gain that weight back and then some. And that's the general trend with these trend diets, right? So remember that. Other problems that can happen that would be long-term, okay? Kidney stones. So that is something that is a long-term potential effect. Liver disease, again, because you're causing your liver to go into this state where it's turning fat into ketones. That's not a normal state that the human body is typically in. So doing that over a prolonged period of time, especially with prior liver conditions. If you have a liver condition, you would not want to try this, but definitely it hurts your liver to be in that state for too long. And then you're not eating a well-balanced diet. So any nutritionist will tell you that balance is more important, moderation is more important than following a specific diet, right? You just want to be moderate in all the things that you do so that you get a good balance of all of the things. So I say eat the rainbow, right? Because you want all of those different colors from the different fruits and vegetables because they provide nutrients, they provide minerals. You want some plant-based protein. What is a good source of plant-based protein? Anyone know? That's just a vegetable, but it's not a protein. Beans, exactly, beans, okay, lentils, they're heart healthy. They are low in calories, high in fiber. That's what we want. We want high fiber, low calorie. Plant-based is great. That's another kind of trendy word that people are doing right now, plant-based. And you can get enough protein. You only need 6 ounces of protein a day, and that's on a 2,000 calorie a day diet. So, you know, I always use the example of like going to any place out to eat. You're getting way more than 6 ounces if you're ordering meat at all. So you're getting more than a day's worth, right, that you need. And that's 2,000 calories. Most of us, depending on your age and weight, you know, activity level, 2,000 calories is a lot. So just know that deficiencies of vitamins and minerals are very likely with this diet because you are not getting the full spectrum of vegetables, you know, lean protein like the plant-based protein, and your fruits. And you're not eating, you're eating a lot of high fat. So again, deficiencies. So some people report that they have trouble sleeping. Your brain, again, going back to those fuzzy thinking and mood swings, you need sugar from healthy carbohydrates. People always think carbs, bad, carbs are no good because it's bread and it's pasta and it's rice. Carbohydrates come from vegetables too. And those are the ones that we want. We want the fiber. We want that healthy source of carbohydrates, right? So it may confuse your brain and lead to some irritability. So definitely kidneys could also be affected. Kidneys help metabolize protein, and the diet, the keto diet, may overload your kidneys, you know, just because you're not getting what you need, right? So your liver, your kidneys, all of these things can lead to not good consequences for your health outcome. It's a really controversial diet. Considerable body of research has shown that, you know, diet high in saturated fats increase the risk for all of the chronic diseases I mentioned, also diabetes, other than heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure. So it's a risk doing this kind of thing. It's pretty restrictive, okay? So the jury is still out. The jury is still out on long-term effects. I would say definitely for a personalized plan for yourself, talk to your medical professionals. Any questions on that high-fat, low-carb keto diet? What do you think of the keto diet? Have you tried it? Have you tried any of the recipes? No? Too much cheese? Yeah, I've tried some of the recipes. They're delicious. They're great. Of course they are, because you use, you know, sour cream and cheese and butter and all of these things. And it's okay, like I said, to have those things in moderation, but just remember what I said about trend diets. You tend to do it for a little bit of time, lose your weight, and then end up gaining it back anyway. So moderation is key. So let's switch gears. Okay, immune boosting foods. I think this one is important right now just because we are going through a pandemic. We are being marketed towards, you know, you go to the grocery store, and if you walk through a healthy living or if you walk through any section of a health, you know, area, and also just on TV and on social media, we're scrolling, we're seeing these things like, eat this, it's great for your immune system, eat that, you know, take this supplement, it's going to boost your immune system. These are things that we're dealing with right now, you know, our immune systems, and also a lot of anxiety and stress, and foods do affect your immune system and your stress and anxiety. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about immune boosting foods. and whether or not they can improve your immune response. Okay, they call them functional foods, right? Functional foods is kind of a newer concept that's coming up in nutrition. So what are they? Basically, functional foods are foods that are marketed with health claims beyond nutrition, right? They don't just give you nutrients, but they could potentially, help you have a less of a time for a cold, right? So they could do something more beyond the physiological properties of giving you vitamin A and vitamin C. They could potentially, regulate a system of your body like your immune system. So that is what it does. It goes above and beyond just giving you your vitamins and minerals, but it might actually improve your other health systems. So that's what functional foods are. Immune response, what is that? We hear it all the time, like, oh, if you have a good immune system, you won't get sick, right? Or sick as much or sick as long. But it's your defense, your body's defense against infection, inflammation, and even allergies. So when you have allergies, that means your immune system is being attacked. Your body thinks, something foreign is in my body, I need to respond. Then you become inflamed, and then you start having, watery eyes and sneezing, right? So definitely immune response is a part of all of this. And then how can functional foods affect your immune system? So functional foods can regulate the immune system through either improving it or suppressing it. Foods can do one or the other, right? So we're going to talk about which foods do what and what is being marketed to you as consumers that can actually help your immune system. So let's see what the number one functional immune boosting foods. Most advertised are going to be probiotics and prebiotics, okay? There are supplements out there that say probiotics. There's drinks out there that say prebiotics, probiotics. There's all kinds of stuff now if you go to the grocery store that are being advertised to help your immune system that are probiotics, right? Probiotics are basically like bacteria in your stomach. We naturally have probiotics and prebiotics in our gut. Our gut health is very related to our immune system. So the most foods that you're going to see, if you've ever heard of kefir, look for it in your dairy section. It's there. They have something called kefir. It's another version of like a yogurt. Yogurt with live active cultures. Fermented vegetables, any kind of fermented vegetables. So that could be like your sauerkraut. They have fermented vegetables now. If you go to the deli section, you can find them. Kimchi is another one. You can find them at some health food stores. I don't know if like your regular grocery store has them, but you can look and see if they do. Tempeh is a type of fermented soy product. You'll probably find it in your vegetable area where they have like the alternative meats. If you go look in that area where they have like tofu, they'll probably have tempeh. And they have like different flavored tempehs. I've tried some. They're pretty good. Kombucha tea, which is a fermented tea, you can find that in healthy living section of your local grocery store. Also kind of has a vinegary taste, but once you get an acquired taste for it, I actually really love it. But the first time I tried it, I was like, ugh. So it kind of takes some time to acquire a taste for it. But they do have different versions, different flavors. You can try different ones. But those have probiotics, okay? Miso soup is a type of soup. You can probably find that in the cold section, either in the deli section or, again, with the dairy stuff. It'll be like in a little round container. It says miso. You just add it to some hot water, and it's fermented soy. So that is also good for your gut. Prebiotic foods are those like garlic. These are just stuff that you can find in your regular vegetable section, produce, right? Garlic, leeks, onions, and asparagus. And a lot of this stuff is in season all the year. Like garlics and onions you can find all the time, right? Leeks and asparagus in the spring, so they're about to be in season. Jerusalem artichokes. I usually just look for artichokes already in the can, so that's what I look for because it's easier for me. But dandelion greens is a type of green, okay? So you can find that. Bananas, seaweed, these are things that are everyday things that you can find. Seaweed now is becoming more popular. You can find it with the sushi. It's a little seaweed salad. It's a little bit slimy, but I kind of like it. I think it tastes good. Try it. Just try it. If you don't like it, you don't have to try it again, but one time is okay. But yes, these foods are going to be marketed toward you to say, hey, these are good for your gut. These can improve your immune system. Our immune system is made of a bunch of bacteria, and these are the ones that are going to feed those healthy bacteria. We now know, research shows that we can actually, there are certain strains of bacteria that are great for our digestive system. So digestive system, that's why food is medicine, is because it affects your gut. And primarily, these are the foods that you'll be marketed toward that will help your gut to have that healthy bacteria. What other foods could potentially help your immune system? So we know that specific nutrients are the ones that help your gut, okay? And help your immune system. So fatty acids, remember what I talked about, healthy fats, like your omegas, so your salmons, your healthy nuts, avocados, coconut oils, those are where you find your fatty acids. Okay, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, A, C, and E, okay? Those are gonna help your immune system as well. And then minerals, zinc, iron, and selenium. So we are now starting to realize that all of these nutrients, okay, specific ones, help with your immune system. It's not just one specific food, because not just one specific food has all of these, right? So again, it's good to just know this information that you might be, it might say like vitamin C, gonna help you with the cold. That's not necessarily the case. It's all of these vitamins and minerals that help you have a better immune system, right? So for one, antioxidants, that's where the color in foods come from. So your dark purples, your dark blues, blueberries, anything purple, you know, like purple onions, those colors have antioxidants. Strawberries, right, with the bright red, those antioxidants help your immune system. That's where antioxidants help to protect your cells, all the stuff that we're made of in our body, to remain healthy. Supporting growth and activity of the immune system, vitamin C is great for that. Even nowadays they have like face creams and stuff that have vitamin C. Why? Because it helps regenerate the cells in your skin. So vitamin C is great for regenerating cells. And when you're sick, you need a lot of help doing that. And then producing antibodies. So antibodies are basically what help you to remain healthy and fight off infection. That comes from these specific nutrients, okay? But again, it's not just one nutrient, it's not just one food. It's a combination of all of these nutrients together. So we know studies have shown that you need to take these on a normal basis, right, in your diet. But what about supplements? What about the herbal remedies? Because there's a ton of supplements out there that you can get your vitamin C, you can get your zinc, and it'll say zinc and vitamin C together in a lozenge. Do those work, okay? So first and foremost, as a nutritionist, I have to tell you the food is first, right? It is the way that you get your nutrients because your body absorbs those nutrients more efficiently. It knows food. We're meant to eat food. So that's why you're going to absorb more of those nutrients from your food. Whole food sources like your fruits, your vegetables, rather than your processed foods or supplements. Again, with these supplements, they're not regulated. Okay, supplements are not regulated by the FDA, the USDA, they're not regulated. So you could be getting a pill with a placebo. You don't know. We don't know. Not saying that that's happening with every single company, but it could be happening, okay? So you don't know exactly what you're getting, what they're adding, whereas with food, if you're eating a whole apple, you know you're eating an apple, right? Hopefully. So we want to minimize the processed foods, minimize those things that can negatively affect our immune system, which I'm going to tell you which ones those foods are in a minute, but whole foods first, right, before vitamins and minerals. Again, talk to your medical professional. Maybe your levels, you got your vitamin D checked and you are like way below what you need. So maybe your doctor recommends getting on a supplement, but do that under the care and guidance of a medical professional so you know how much to take, how often to take, because in some cases, like elderly populations tend to be deficient in nutrients. It's appropriate for them to take a supplement, right? under the care of a professional, not just going to the store and saying, oh, I think that looks good, I'm going to go ahead and take that, right? It's getting your levels checked, talking to a doctor, talking to a registered dietitian, eating those foods with vitamin D, but also maybe supplementing if it's recommended for you, right? So I'm not saying that they don't work at all. I'm not saying never take them, but I am saying that food is going to be the first line of defense. Then you can talk about supplements if you need it based on your levels, right? But don't just go out there and say, I think this looks good, I'm going to start taking probiotics, I'm going to start taking vitamin D and vitamin C because that's what they said in the immune system class, right? You want to be sure. And then also, mega dose supplements that are like way above the recommended amount can actually adversely affect your health. So you don't want to take too much, okay? They should not be considered a substitute for a good diet. Okay, so just because you're taking your vitamin every day does not mean you're getting all the vitamins and minerals that you need. You want to be getting the right amounts and from the right sources. So I want you to take a look at this and just tell me one food on this screen. Hopefully you can see it. I made a little chart, and it's foods that have these specific nutrients. So one that you might be willing to try. Vitamin C, we have zinc. Magnesium is great for the stress and anxiety, but also immune support. Omega-3 fatty acids, probiotics, and antioxidants. I'm a big antioxidant person. I love all of that stuff in the bottom. So for me, you know, I love berries. I love greens. I'll eat all that stuff all day. I love broccoli. But something that you might be willing to try off of this. You could just yell it out. What do you think? None of it? You don't like any of it? Yeah, that's a great question. So the question is, you don't understand what legumes are versus beans. Yeah, so legumes are any plant-based, so it could be like lentils. Well, they're a legume. Yeah. Isn't that a bean? No, it's not a bean. It's a legume. A lentil is a legume. Yeah. It looks like a bean, but beans are, beans grow in a pod, right? So I don't know how lentils grow, but I don't think that, yeah, they're not, it's not the same. But beans are going to be also a good source of nutrients. Yeah, that's a good question. But yeah, lentils would be considered a legume. Anything that you would be willing to try on there? Yeah, cashews are a great snack. Zinc. Anything you might be willing to try? Or that you already eat? Okay. Okay, so you would eat anything on there. See, those are good. I'm glad. So just know that these have these specific benefits, right? They're on the right. Help support gut health. That's a really important one. But all of these are great for immune system, and then also the anxiety and stress of being in a pandemic. Because stress and anxiety make your immune system worse. If you're under chronic stress, you're going to be more immunocompromised. Yeah, so like a lentil is not a bean, but it is a legume, right? But a bean is a legume. Yeah. Like, it's like a bean is not equal to a lentil, right? But both lentils and beans are equal to legumes. I know it's confusing, but they're all legumes. So bottom line is that diets that are limited in variety and nutrients are going to be the ultra-processed foods that we typically see and are generally in an American diet. They can negatively impact your immune system. So all the foods, there will be foods listed as functional foods, right? But overall, what we want to know is that a healthy diet will include all of the nutrients and minerals that you need, that you require to keep a healthy immune system. So just know that, okay? And free of excess inflammation. Inflammation also leads to immunocompromised bodies. So inflammation comes from these types of foods, okay? Limit nutrient-poor, energy-dense foods like added sugars, saturated fats, sugar-sweetened beverages, pastries, refined grains, okay? Nutrient status is an important factor contributing to your immune system. So if you're eating a lot of nutrient-dense foods, yes, you're getting calories, but you're not getting nutrients, right? You're not nourishing your body, and that's what food is meant for. It's meant to energize you, meant to give you energy. Okay, I always think of it as fuel. It's your gas. If you're putting like the worst possible type of gas in your body, that's what the effects will be on your body, right? If you're putting the best quality that you can, that's the effects that you're going to get. So malnutrition or a diet lacking in nutrients is going to impair your immune system and your antibodies. All right, so these foods you want to limit, not saying never have them. Remember the 80-20 rule, 80% of the time trying to do what you can to eat healthy, balanced, nutrient-dense, like greens and vegetables and fruits and whole grains, right? Low-fat dairy. But sometimes you can have some of this stuff. 20% of the time, it's like, okay, it's okay to have a piece of cake every now and then. It's not going to be the end of the world, right? We want to also enjoy our food that may have some of this stuff in it, sugar and butter, okay? So it's not an all or nothing. Again, that idea of all or nothing with diets and trend diets is what leads us to lose weight and then gain it all back really quickly. And then we get discouraged, right? And then we end up gaining more. So you want to avoid that. You want to do something that's sustainable, small changes, not so much what you can take away, but what you would add, okay? More of the abundance mindset of, okay, I'll just add one vegetable a day to my diet, right? What can I add? I will add one whole grain instead of refined white grains, and I'll switch it out. I will just do half a soda instead of a full soda. So it's the small things that matter over a long period of time. The takeaway is just eat a balanced diet with whole fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, plenty of water, lots and lots of water. Does anyone know how many ounces of water you should be drinking a day? 16 ounces? It's half of your weight in ounces. So if you weighed 150 pounds, that would be 75 ounces a day. I was like, 16 ounces if you were a baby, if you were like a toddler, right? So yes, lots and lots of water, more water than you think you should be drinking. But half your weight in ounces is what you should be drinking in water. So if you do like sugar-sweetened beverages, try the infused waters, add some fruit in there, add some herbs in there, spices even. I know some people have put like cayenne pepper and all kinds of stuff in their waters. But just try different things because water is so, so, so important. Yeah, well now it's like half your weight in ounces. They used to say like eight glasses, but it's half of your weight. Yeah. Any questions on any of the stuff we went over? Questions. I need questions. What do you think about this? Good information? Was it useful? Okay. Oh no, I forgot to email myself okay. That's it for the PowerPoint. So thank you if you were online and saw that, if it was even online. But I do have this recipe that I gave to you because I think typically when we think yogurt, we think smoothies, we think just eating it with fruit, right? Parfaits, but you can actually use yogurt as a dip. And this is one of the fermented foods that I went over that can help your immune system because it's got probiotics in it. So look for I like, this one has Greek yogurt. You don't have to use Greek yogurt. I think Greek yogurt's great because it has a tangy taste, kind of like sour cream. You can substitute Greek yogurt in any recipe that has sour cream because of that. But you can use it as a dip. So this is called tzatziki. Tzatziki, I know it's kind of a hard word to say. It's usually used in Greek food. But it's a really good little dip to make and have it to just dip with veggies throughout the week. And I'll give you a copy of this. But yes, it's got dill, cucumber, garlic, which are great together, lemon zest, and then you could put salt and pepper if you want. Again, you don't have to put the dill, but if you are growing dill, and I have a ton of dill at the food bank right now, we have so much of it. If you have fresh dill, it's great. You can use dried. So remember, dried herbs actually have a lot more punch. So for every tablespoon of fresh herb, you would use a teaspoon, right, of dried herb, I believe. So you would use a lot less, right? Or even, I think it's like even half a teaspoon. So it's like very, very potent when you use the dried herbs. So you can use dried herbs if you don't have the fresh. But this is delicious. Keep it in the fridge. I think it would last for at least 5 days in the fridge if you keep it fresh in an airtight container and just have it to dip on veggies. It's good because sometimes you don't want to eat your veggies plain, right? You want something to kind of snack with it. So it's got that, like, that it makes you feel satisfied, right? That you have something to dip it in, and it's not ranch. Because ranch, again, is high in fat. So love this recipe. That's why I gave it to you. Sorry that I couldn't demo it for you today. Maybe next time. We're kind of dealing with some things at the food bank right now, but hopefully next time I can demo this for you and you can try it out and see what you think. Cucumber is great. Something that we can get year-round here, although it is seasonal and it's in season during the summer. But you can get it year-round. Stored in wrap paper towel in a plastic bag for up to 1 week. Oh, yeah, I would do them in the fridge. Yeah. Yep. Put them in the fridge for sure. And again, it tells you the health benefits of cucumbers right there. Eye health, lung health, liver health, high in fiber, low in calories. It's an ideal food. But that's all I've got for you today. I hope that was useful. I do have a quick before you go. I can find it. Oh no. I only printed one off. Well, since y'all were